Hi, I'm Paul Bauhs, and I have a woodworking business here, Paul Bauhs Woodworking, and I've done the studio tour for about 5 years, and I'm sorry y'all can't come this year, but you're welcome to come hopefully next year. Yeah, I welcome everybody into my shop to have a look at maybe current projects and stuff, and then I welcome everybody into the house too to see finished products, and I've done a lot of different things in my house. As you may have noticed, my house is part log cabin, so that's offered a lot of opportunities to do more unique things. And so I've used a lot of unique cuts of wood even, with a lot of character in them that normally may end up firewood for somebody else. This was a log, of course. It's a walnut log. It came from a tree in town that was from one of my customers' backyards. She had to have it taken down to put an addition on her house. So we're going to make a table out of some of this stuff, at least for that room. Walnut is pretty much my favorite wood. I like the other ones too, oak and maple and that, but walnut is just so rich and colorful and beautiful and warm. Once this figure here gets all sanded, planed and sanded and finished, it'll just jump out and really be gorgeous. We do have plenty of lumber for her table, but we'll probably have lots left over, and there's some of that is little smaller pieces, but they have a lot of interesting stuff in them too. So, okay, why don't we head over to the shop for a few minutes and take a peek at what I'm putting together in there. Yeah, well, we're in my shop now, obviously, and yeah, it's a very comfortable space. I heat it with wood. As I've told lots of people, I feel very fortunate to have a nice shop. And in the wintertime, if there's 2 feet of snow on the ground, I don't care. I got a nice warm place to work. So yeah, here's a couple of tables. You'll see in the house more finished stuff, but I thought you'd like to see, maybe get a sense of the process I go through. I usually have an idea, of course, what I want, and this is kind of like a coffee table, or it could be a bench also. And this is just a little table. I was going to keep it for my bathroom just to put stuff on. So I kind of rough things out first and clamp them together and kind of get a sense of how they'll look. And I was an art student for lots of years at Wartburg College and then at Iowa, so I kind of rely on my just what feels right to me, I guess is most of it. So yeah, this little table, if I took these 2 clamps off, those pieces would all come apart. This will eventually have a slate or stone section in it for, you know, if I put a hot coffee cup on it, doesn't really matter. And then these guys are just sitting on this, and that's kind of my process, is to kind of place things and just see how I feel. If I don't like it, then I'll do something different. Yeah, basically I build a lot of different things, whether it's really traditional looking or this live edge look, or I've done more modern kinds of stuff. I finished not that long ago a big 18-foot by 8-foot conference table with a lot of live edge in it, and so I do a wide range of stuff. Generally it's all on customer based, whatever they want, that's what I do. I do a little bit of stuff kind of speculative, but basically it's all someone approaches me, they want something, and we talk about what the needs are, how it's supposed to function and stuff, and then maybe what they want it to look like, and then I put some ideas together and we get back and discuss things, and I enjoy the whole process. Yeah, what I most enjoy is taking, you know, raw lumber all the way through the process to creating a finished product, and I am known for the quality of work I do and the finishing. I used to build furniture down at the Amana Colonies. I worked there for 3.5 years. A lot of that time with the foreman, and then I had my own bench. I was very lucky down there. I got to do a lot of different things. I built china cupboards down to coffee tables to footstools, all kinds of stuff, and I really appreciated that experience. And I also was kind of the extra guy, so I got to build the custom orders too. So it was really pretty intense for me to learn a new language of furniture building, but it was a great experience. And then I've been up here for 36 years, trying all kinds of stuff. I've done a lot of carpentry and cabinet making and the furniture thing, and it's just been a nice mix of all kinds of different projects. So this is a trellis that I was experimenting with about a year or so ago, and I just really liked the live edge, obviously, so I thought using these, the live edge for the rungs, is basically just a branch of an elm tree that I ran through my planer both sides and flattened out to a certain thickness. And then I created, a little slot that they can fit into. And this is walnut. I really enjoy mixing woods. I used to be a person that only used one type of wood per project, but I find the contrast really interesting. And so basically, I finish a lot of these parts separately and then put it together. And so these guys sandwich these rungs, and then I put screws in from the back side, from outside, and then I put a cherry strip to hide all the screws. Yeah, why don't we go inside now and look at some of the projects I've done for myself in my own house. This house, when I bought it years ago, was really in rough shape. And the one corner of the house, as I was explaining to somebody not long ago, had rotted enough that it was sagging down about 8 inches. The floor joists were rotted off at both ends. The roof was leaking. The windows were bad. The doors were bad. The electrical was bad. The plumbing was bad. Most of the floors I've rebuilt, raised the roof. I've kind of redone everything in the house and added some depth to the walls, so we got better insulation in here too. So I've really kind of I have redone the whole house and pretty much built everything in it, from most of the trim and cabinetry and furniture, of course. As you can see, this is a log cabin. It was one of the original log cabins built by the Norwegians, I do believe. And it was dated about 1865, so it goes back quite a ways, kind of Civil War times, which is kind of hard to imagine sometimes, I think. But anyway, it makes a really cozy room and a nice backdrop for all my furniture. It's just between the log cabin walls and the furniture, I just get this real sense of richness for myself, which I really enjoy. So this table is similar to the ones we were looking at in my shop. You can see the same kind of crotch wood, a little chunk of elm, and then with a walnut foot on there. And then the horizontals, and then I did put slate in this, which I really like that. It's not such a delicate surface. I built this couch. I have another one in the shop that I built. I put slate in the arms because I have a good friend. He likes to put his coffee cup down on the arms of the chair and stuff. So this is a table that I built for the studio tour maybe 4 years ago. And I gotta admit, at first I didn't really care for it myself, but then I've lived with it for a couple of years and I really like it now. It has a granite chunk. This is basically a cutout, probably not a sink cutout, but it's basically a countertop leftover that would just go in the dumpster. You can see I consider this kind of a live edge too. It's coarse, plus the holes, when they mine them, they drill holes, and I think they lift them out with a couple of steel rods or something somehow. But anyway, I just really like the stone and the wood together. I think when you mix materials, it's just always so much richer. So yeah, I have the granite, which is just gorgeous, and then some elm and walnut, and and then elm down below also. If I was asked what is absolutely my favorite piece of furniture that I built, this would probably be it. It started out just to be a simple shelf for my son, but as I told a lot of people, it kind of got away from me. But I really love the thing. It has elm up here, walnut here, elm here, and it has some really interesting elm figure here. And then these end brackets. I've seen brackets in magazines that look similar to this, but this was from an old floor grate for air circulation. This one actually had a hole cut in the center of it and held up the chimney for the wood burner. So it wasn't really reusable for anything else, and so I just thought, well, I'd use the patterning in that and kind of cut out what I wanted, and then hide the rough edge in a channel in the wood piece behind it. Yeah, this is pretty much the same as the one in the shop, except for I did use a piece of elm that had a real wild live edge down there, and some of that same elm up here, and then you can see how I hung it. I didn't want the wood that held it to be a distraction from the trellis itself, so I tried to keep it really simple. Plus, I always try to make things so that I don't have to put a screw hole in the front of my trim. Okay, this is a mirror frame, obviously, that I built, I think it was just last year for the studio tour. And yeah, I used walnut down here and up top, you know, pretty extreme grain in it, and then the elm on the two edges. And yeah, I really like, generally, what I like to do is use thicker lumber than 3/4 lumber. If it's an inch or inch and this is probably 1.25 inches, this is maybe 1 3/4 inches or so. I like the heavier lumber. It just has that kind of more of a gutsy feel. Yeah, this is a mirror frame, and a mirror, of course, that was probably one of the first things I made out of character wood, which was maybe 20 years ago. And it was just a fun experimental kind of thing. Got walnut on the sides, elm on the top and the bottom, and I really like this because you get the reflection of the little shelf in the mirror itself. And sometimes I had a customer about 2 years ago wanted one really similar to this, and she really liked the idea of this because if you put a little something on there, I sometimes put fossils from the river on here, and then you get to see the backside of them too. So I feel pretty fortunate that my house was such a wreck, I guess, because I got to redo everything, including the steps, which this was one of those things I could have gone really simple, but I just decided to do it with the same theme that I've done everything else, which was really a good idea in retrospect, of course. Yeah, I got elm railings and then white oak kind of sub railings that really give it the strength. I mean, it's a very solid railing system. And then all these panels are honey locusts that came out of my woods. We had some stormados, they call them. Little tornadoes came through my woods like a lot of other people's and pulled down some trees. So had a local sawyer saw it up, and then actually it's a kind of a funny fluky thing that happened. I had this lumber in my corn crib, and when I was doing these steps I hadn't intended to use this lumber, but I went out to corn crib and it was falling down. I just thought, geez, I had to tear it down, I wonder what's in there, and these guys were in there. So I think it was one of those meant to be kind of situations. And so it was really interesting trying to figure out how to fit them together to make a safe railing system and panel system, because I think you're supposed to have only 4 inches or less given kids can stick their heads in. So I had to make them kind of fit together. But I don't know, as far as having a lot of character and strength, I mean, you couldn't really use the lumber for any traditional piece of furniture, but for this kind of use, it worked out really well. All of these panels sit in a grooved slot and are screwed into place from the bottom of this channel. So that's what keeps them flat, otherwise they would probably move around some. I put them in a channel so that they can expand and contract, which is what wood naturally does. Yeah, this is one of a pair of dressers that I made for myself. I just needed some clothing storage, and as a furniture builder, that's what you get to do. And I get excited because it's another great project I get to do for myself. So basically it's cherry. I did use the kind of pulls used from the elm branches that I did with the trellises down there. I just thought that was kind of a nice look for this. Yeah, and then these end panels and some of the framing for the top has a lot of bug damage to it. Powder post beetles, which a lot of people would just discard, but I think it has a tremendous texture to it. This is just riddled with it. It's just amazing. So I think I really like that look. And then I did a slate top here, which was really a fun project. I'm a cut and fit guy, so it's a pretty natural thing for me to want to cut tile. And the stone tile, it's really pretty easy to cut, and it just adds to the richness of the overall project. And of course, I had to get a little character wood look into it. This is more kind of dimensional lumber look to it, but I always achieve some, get some character wood into my projects if I can. So one of the last things I'm going to show you is this walnut built-in storage cabinet for furniture and stuff. Yeah, this is really unique in that the walnuts, while the tree was growing, fell into a crevice in the bark, and the bark grew around it really tight. And so the walnuts are still in there. I'm really surprised that they didn't pop out when I was planing them. Planing them is is pretty hard on something like that. But and there's a little piece of a walnut up here in this too. And that's the great thing about kind of doing custom building, is you can take advantage of really unique features in the lumber and make the lumber special in itself, along with the piece of furniture that you build. Yeah, I hope to see you next year. That would be a lot of fun when this virus thing is over, to get to talk with more people from out of town and locals too. So